Welcome, one and all, to the first episode of the Dane Nichols Show. I sort of just copped out and called it the Dane Nichols Show. I assumed that I wouldn't come up with anything better. I had Gary G in today, very funny Sacramento comedian, and I needed to post about it on Instagram. And I needed a name for my show to advertise it, and so it's going to be called the Dane Nichols Show, and I'm a narcissist, so I like to have my name in the title. So, thanks for being here, all of you 0 people, I assume, that are listening to this first episode. Thanks for being here. Well, hopefully I'm sure some people are listening. And I hope you feel very special, listener, and like I'm speaking directly to you. I want to foster that relationship. So I just want to introduce the show and myself first and kind of give an idea of what sort of product I'm going to be delivering on this show and you know, where my areas of interest lie right now, and just, you know, kind of who I am as a person. So I have had a lot of different hobbies and different, you know, types of art I've done throughout my life. And right now, the main thing that I do is just comedy in Sacramento, and now this podcast. But I come from a pretty musical background. I hope to get musicians on the show. I hope to get definitely some Sacramento musicians on here. I'm sure there'd be a lot of them that would be willing. Obviously, I hope to have more comedians on. But yeah, so music and comedy. What else? I have been taking strong liking lately to, I guess, a certain flavor of comedic political commentary, and we'll see if it comes out at all in these intros I do. This is mostly a long-form interview podcast. Right now, I think that's what it's going to be. So, as for the content that I'm just going to be doing on my own, you know, it's probably just going to be in these intros, and I don't even know how much I'm going to do. But I might go over some headlines sometimes, and I don't know, make fun of them or something. I do like to do that. So yeah, I don't know, music, politics, metaphysics, philosophy, Buddhism, Hinduism, stuff like that. Any fans of Midnight Gospel listening to this should talk to me about Midnight Gospel. That's a great show, and I love Clancy is super inspirational for me even doing this. I mean, the idea of him broadcasting to just his one fan, that's hilarious. And when he sends him ice cream and then that gets him in trouble or whatever, I don't know, it's hilarious. But yeah, this is my space cast, and as long as there's a non-zero amount of people listening, then it's definitely going to be worth it. Okay, so what else? I don't know. I'll read from time to time. I don't know. I run. Maybe this will turn into like an exercise bro podcast at some point. What else? So, I don't know, maybe the show could morph into other things in the future. I would certainly be interested in doing the occasional solo episode, just going for an hour and riffing. I would like to get a video component if I'm going to do that, and maybe have people here in person so that it's not just, I don't know. Because even this right now is just like, I'm just alone in my apartment. It's weird. I don't know. I'll have to get used to just talking on my own thing. But Yeah, I believe Gary and I on this episode we talk about how radio is just, I don't know, we talk about radio, I think, and I would definitely be interested in exploring radio too. I mean, this is radio. Come on, this is independent radio, basically. What's the difference between podcasts and radio? Podcasts are just anyone can do it. They're chill. Okay, cool. All right. Now I guess I'll move on into like, you know, what these intros are probably usually gonna be. I'm sort of. I'll just, you know, credit where credit is due. I'm from a tradition that likes to give credit to teachers, and I'm gonna right now. The model of this podcast is very similar to WTF with Mark Maron, a show I'm a huge fan of, and You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes, and I really like the little bit of just talking about themselves and their lives that they do up top. So yeah, so right now I'm kind of gonna probably have a podcast that's like a little bit, you know, it's how we all start, right? Copying our influences a little bit too much, we're all a little bit derivative in the beginning, but then hopefully I can kind of turn these intros into what I want them to be, hopefully do some solo stuff, maybe get some groups in here. I mean, I really like the idea of this becoming like a podcast where people come to hang out and like really let their hair down. I'd be interested in like getting a group of people on here. So we'll look into that. Yeah. Okay, so I guess we'll do a little bit of insight talk. We're coming out of quarantine. Quarantine has been super valuable for me. I think so for those who don't know, I am from the Midwest initially, and then I moved, I don't know why I'm not being more specific, near Madison, Wisconsin, and I moved to California on my own, on quote unquote on my own, with my parents' money, but you know, I am literally on my own. And I think that was a huge step forward in terms of being willing to embrace isolation and just really live with myself and kind of, you know, that was the first step in putting myself in a position where the harmful stuff about who I am, the stuff that's harmful to me or harmful to others, gets put into a position where it has to give, you know, and of course, there's also when you meet new people and you have similar conflicts with them as with people that you've known back home, there's insights to be made into you know, if it's, you know, you can't escape yourself. That's what I'm getting at. And then for quarantine to hit while I was living alone in a tiny apartment in LA was just like double isolation. I read all of Lord of the Rings for the first time when quarantine first hit. That was awesome. And there was a little bit of a honeymoon period with quarantine too, right? I mean, there's a honeymoon period with, that's life, you know? It's like, so long as you're not like, assuming that you have some basic level of comfort, it's just like, is shit new and exciting, or are you stuck in a routine, or are you stuck in a rut? For me at least, I don't know. But yeah, now I'm not coming out of quarantine. I don't know. I just have, I don't know. I've realized, I think, a lot that I'm frustrated that I didn't realize earlier in life, but I think I have some good ways of addressing, some good ideas about how to address just the stuff I've identified that I want to work on about myself in material ways, in direct ways, you know, and like, you know, running and, you know, healthy diet. Those are, you know, things that I'll kind of, you know, share, and I feel good recommending, meditation, exercise. I really need to get back on my meditation. I haven't sat in a while. I've just been feeling really weird in the mornings lately. It's definitely more of a rut time. But optimistically, I don't know. It's what day is it today? Tuesday. God, you guys, I am stupid. Okay, so don't trust me for any info ever. It's Sunday. I have a paper due on Tuesday, at midnight on Tuesday. That's why I was thinking about Tuesday, and I'm gonna go back to writing that paper more as soon as I'm done recording this. Well, not as soon as I'm gonna, I don't know, dawdle around a little bit, of course, but yeah. Yes. Just, yeah, doing the best you can to just, basically stoicism. I'm into stoicism. I'm trying to just, now since I've had these insights, I'm trying to just meet myself where I am and conquer my fears about the things that I'm not good at. And yeah, a big part of that is social skills. Hopefully this podcast will help with that. I can get some people on here, force them to talk to me, and comedians are narcissists, so they're gonna come on here. This is the trick. They come on here to get exposure, and then I get to practice being a human and talking to humans. So that'll be good. Yeah. What else? I don't know. This is really incoherent. I wrote some stuff down to try to make this intro good and appealing, but at this point, skip to the interview. If you don't want this intro, skip to the fucking interview. I'm sure a lot of you people have done that already. Just skip to Gary's voice if you're not just willing to listen to me kind of work this out. You're listening to me work out right now, frankly. Yeah. So on this podcast with Gary, we talk about, at one point I mention this book, Logic for the Left, by Ben Burgess, that I found out through this sort of, Majority Report sphere of Michael Brooks, type of, that whole Richard Wolff, that whole, I'm starting to kind of explore more of that, more socialist work, and so we talk about that book, and in that book, when Ben Burgess is talking about the sort of essentialism and pedantry that the right will do to justify transphobia, he talks about, when he's deconstructing those arguments, he brings up ContraPoints, a YouTube, politics commentator, and usually when I get recommended someone by someone I respect, I wait until a second person that I respect has recommended it to me, and then I go and listen, or I go and consume, typically. And so I get the Ben Burgess rec, and then I want to say yesterday, last night-ish, I got a email from my dad, since we've been talking about different political commentators lately, and he sent me an email basically being like, we checked out ContraPoints, and so I was like, all right, that's two people, I'll check her out. And holy shit, you guys, if you're into socialism and political commentary, comedy type stuff, and deep irony, I don't know, if you enjoyed the Colbert Report, if you're, for me, I feel like she's kind of carrying Michael Brooks's torch in terms of Michael Brooks had all these. I encourage people to watch Michael Brooks impressions compilations, because he had all these impressions were just they were so much more, I don't know, there was more to them than the political commentary that you see anywhere in the corporate media sphere. I mean, right-wing Nelson Mandela, Nation of Islam Obama, those characters that are just so like, I don't even know how to describe them. Just like deep, like, I don't know, kind of like irony or something. I don't know. But what ContraPoints is doing is seriously fucking art. Like the set design and the abstract humor and the emotional intelligence and the conventional intelligence or whatever. And that's another commonality between Michael Brooks and ContraPoints. I've only just watched probably like 4 hours of ContraPoints content at this point, which is a fucking lot given I've known about her for like 24 hours. But that is a commonality between her and Michael Brooks, is just the quickness, the emotional intelligence, the awareness, and then also this commitment to humanist values is really cool. And then just like, yeah, the sort of abstract style of humor, the way it's delivered is, I don't know, there's something really cool there. I'd love to have people that know more about politics and people that know more about comedy than me on, and kind of figure out what maybe what's being done that's maybe, you know, just kind of, you know, talk shop about some of this you know, this certain genre of like, I don't know, I'm just, God, so much of this is just me talking about other stuff I enjoy. I'm so insecure that nobody's gonna enjoy this because it's just me talking about what art I've been enjoying lately. Like I'm a fucking museum curator or something. But no, like, God, I just saw a great clip YouTube video recently of Tim Heidecker on Chapo Trap House talking about Trump and this just like, I don't know, ridiculous Trump quote, and it's just like, I don't know, there's this certain breed of like really quick, witty, emotionally intelligent, aware, woke, for lack of a better word, type of, you know, individual that I really am aspiring for. I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm totally acquiescent and in a total constant sense of malaise and sort of apathy, but just these people that are, and maybe I'm just slow as fuck too, so maybe it's just me being stupid and like idolizing, like, I don't know, but there is something to be said for, I don't know, people that are emotionally intelligent and, you know, scholarly or whatever, their ability to point out bigotry in a pithy way, and it just, in general, intolerance and hatred in a pithy, you know, direct, or, you know, in a way that kind of, you know, humiliates the opposition, you know. We love that. All right, well, I should stop talking. I was gonna go for, I had an idea that maybe I'd keep it within like 10 minutes, and I thought 15 would be ideal. Now it's nearly 20, and most of it was trash. Let's be honest. These intros are going to get better, though. This podcast is going to get better. And frankly, Gary carried this interview. Awesome individual, Sacramento comic. Check him out. Check out this interview. Let's get it. Thanks for being here. Something like, okay, now we're recording. Yeah, no, there's something really, you vibe as like, well, I mean, you do like some sort of blue collar work, right?
Yeah, so I started in construction up here, at least. Okay. Before that, I worked in Bakersfield, doing concrete samples and testing. So, like, yeah, you're in the field. It's fun being out there. You have a lot of oil fields, request concrete samples, so you're just out there in your hard hat in the baking sun. But yeah, it was an easy job. I like it because you're outside all day. And then got more permanent work up here.
The end of Office Space, he ends up doing a job like that. Yeah. There's something beautiful about that, you know. Someone's gotta.
Yeah,
and you're outside and it's meaningful, and like you're working your body, you know, getting your blood pumping instead of just like sitting inside, you know, doing some bullshit all day, you know, staring at a screen.
That depends. I do a little bit of both. The one job I had was
so where are you? Catch me up to speed with that.
So Yeah, I worked at a different construction firm, so you had a little bit of half and half where you're in the field and then you're managing some stuff. So it's the best of both worlds. Now I work with the county, but essentially you're just doing this one's more office work. But it's kind of weird because I do like transitioning because when I first started, like right with graduation, you're like field every day because you're outside, you're doing stuff, but eventually certain things do get older. They just get old. You're just like you're baking in the sun. You get into your truck. It's like 130 degrees, and eventually, years pass, and then you get an office gig. And I know there's always that stereotype of like, oh, you're just that white collar worker, and you're not doing anything. It's like, there's a bunch of nice people that do it. Everyone's friendly. It's not.
There's good people everywhere.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's assholes in this construction field, and there's super friendly people. Like, you have the stereotypical construction worker. A lot of them exist, but then a lot are just people like, you think it's like, oh, you learn my idea. It's like, no, it's like, hey, what do we do? It's like, okay, here, let me walk you through it. Like, you had a bunch of cool foremen that walk you through stuff. They're not like, I think anyone who wants to have a good team realizes that there's a learning curve to everything, and you're not just going to be rough and tough asshole right from the start. People help you.
Yeah, and I struggle with that. My pride gets in the way.
Oh.
Narcissism, all that stuff. But okay, so we've got Gary G on the show today. We just jumped right into it. Construction, and comedy, the two C's. I don't know. How do those two bridge? Is there anything funny about construction? Okay, I'm also like being really. I'm reducing. So I'm so dumb. So you do like planning. Nowadays you do like partially office work, like planning and stuff. I'd be
all
interested in
office
getting
work.
to that. But okay, yeah. And so okay, let's get into bridging that with like what's funny about what you do generally. God, I'm a terrible interviewer. What's funny about what you do? Go.
Well, you see, I just know. No, it's just your typical office. I don't do my comedy based off what I work at because, in fact, I don't think it's funny currently with my job.
Yeah. Jobs usually aren't funny. They usually suck ass.
Yeah, it's more just observing people and more of looking into my past.
Yeah.
Is a lot of my that's why a lot of my bits are like either about dating or family, because that to me that's where I get up like bits, family, dating, friends. That's the sort of thing I go for. But like in the office environment, there's not really too much to make fun of. It's like we get work done. You can't be like, oh, there's this one. Like no one would get it.
Right.
Maybe one day I'll be able to do some bits, but until then, it doesn't help that I started my comedy career still in the midst of the pandemic, where I started doing my writing. So the whole office environment is thrown out of whack. I haven't seen a lot of my coworkers in a year, so it's hard to.
I hate it, man. I hate it, like just not being around people generally. Like I really, really. It's like that Bukowski poem where he says, "Beware he who wants to be around people all the time, for he is nothing when he is alone." Like that's totally me a little bit. Like I need to socialize all the time and just fuck the pandemic, man. It's been rough.
Well, that's just normal human nature. Like more or less, I could be alone for days. There's been times like before I was dating.
I imagine you as being like in a cabin in the woods. This is like the picture I'm painting of you. Is that you were chopping wood earlier today? Like I wanna follow that. Play that out for me.
Oh, I'm going camping with some friends, so I needed firewood. So
fuck yeah, camping is the shit.
So I already had some stacked logs, but then my girlfriend wanted some coasters for her terracotta pots. So I got one of the nicer logs and just chopped some coasters for her with a chainsaw real quick. So that's why I was chopping wood today.
Nice.
Just typical.
Yeah. Normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's casual.
Yeah. Chain came off, had to unbolt it and reapply the chain and tighten it. Just typical. As you do. Yeah. Have you not used a chainsaw before? Obviously.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm from Wisconsin, so I was around a lot of people that were doing interesting stuff like that. But, I just never did. Where are you going camping?
We're going to June Lake by Mammoth. So, unfortunately, it looks like the weather's getting cold again, despite that it's almost May.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, but lakes are always nice.
But I guess more glamping because he has a toy hauler without the toys, so we're just gonna be staying in that thing.
So. Hauler. I hardly know her.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, this is terrible. This podcast is going to get canceled.
Keep going. Hey, everything's terrible at first. Like, look at my first set. It was just like memorization. And even all my sets now, like Carlos Rodriguez, he's a pro, and he's like, dude, it sounds like you're reading a book report to me. And I'm like, that's exactly it. And it's like I don't have enough. Like, I could write,
Mm-hmm.
but then when I think the main one is I'm over memorizing. Like, I'll write it to the T, and I'm just like, okay, you got to say it exactly like this, and it's like I need punchlines.
Not everyone's like that. Yeah. That's stuff that's very intrinsic to yourself. You have to look inside and figure out what your process is, because there's comedians like Pete Holmes who do a lot of their writing on stage, and he has described his style as sort of like half writing things out beforehand, like when things come to him, and then kind of finding the final wording on stage, and that way it's always alive. Because a big part of what I'm so attracted to about stand-up comedy is the live performance aspect of it. You know, connecting with the audience and mixing things up a little bit each time can help keep your set lively. So I encourage you to try that. I think I could benefit from going a little bit more in your direction, frankly, and kind of tightening up my act and really knowing what I'm gonna say. There's some bits where I get lost, you know what I mean? And so I think you need some of both, but also, well, what am I saying? Everyone's different in terms of it's a process. Writing into performance, into reflection. The reflection I don't do enough of. Everyone tells me that I should record myself, and
David Attell doesn't do any of that.
Yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. I just hate
and they scream at him for not.
Not even because of my voice. Like, it's not even a normal thing of, like, it's just the way my pauses, my ums, when I listen back to that shit, I'm like,
You have to. It's the ultimate form of hating yourself, because I'll sit down on once I do my sets for the week, I'll sit down, I put my headphones on, I watch them, and I'm just like, oh, you're a terrible person. Why are you doing this? You don't deserve any of this. And then
my God, yes.
It's like, go back to your cubicle.
The self-hate spiral. Yeah. I know it all too well.
Yeah, it's like, why? Your voice is awful. It's not meant for stage.
No. Your voice is great. Yeah.
I know, so it's things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. One of the things you could look into if you want to just like more self-reflect and just dig into writing, because what gets you ready to prepare is you should reach out to some of the local radio stations and either just try to be a board op or an assistant producer. And one of the big ones is you just got to show that you actually make stuff, because there's too many people going, hey, I want to get into radio. It's like, well, what have you done with audio work? And you're like, nothing. And it's like, well,
but I'm ready to grind.
And it's like, no. Like, I was reading Black Privilege by Charlemagne the God, and he talked about that. He's like, you have more opportunity than most people realize now, because when I was growing up, you had to physically buy recording stuff and go into studios. If you have a cell phone, you could do all that, mix things, make yourself a little sample, and then send it out to people. But I don't know, that could be a suggestion for you, is just reach out to the local stations around here and just be like, see if they'll hire you at minimum wage or something even lower.
Nothing. I do a free internship, just time on the radio, that's it.
It's hard to do free internships now because of some Jay-Z. Was it Jay-Z? I don't want to drop wrong names, but
Jay-Z, I like that.
They have, well, that's part of paying your dues. It's almost like Tourette's. For the summer, you get a bunch of interns, and they work for free, and they're doing like getting you coffee, doing other things. But what you're looking for isn't someone who's like the next artistic talent. You're looking for someone who grinds. And then of those 50 interns, they're gone. You get rid of a lot, and you keep like 2 or 3, and then you hire them full time. And what happened is, it's not his fault. It was one of the interns was like, this is worse than slave labor, saying it to a black performer. And it's like, my goodness. But anyway, daddy sues. And now you can't have free work because of what because there's one thing to volunteer. Because
wait, hold on. I think I missed something along the way. Could you, so these unpaid internships, somebody was saying it's like slavery?
Yeah, because you have to.
I mean, they do suck. It does suck to work and not get paid, you know.
Yeah.
But with something like the radio, where you get to, you know, you get a platform, as long as you're getting something in return. I mean, yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't understand that you have to work your way to get up to something, because there's like, I listen to the Woody Show, Alt 98.7, and it's an LA station. I've been listening since they started going on air back in 2014.
Yeah. Okay.
And the main DJ talked about that. Like, you'll have interns where it's like they'll be there for 3 months, and they're like, "So when do I get on air?" It's like, you don't get on air. Not for a long time. Like, go make these copies and go ahead and get some demos, like that sort of thing. Make these phone calls.
Yeah.
And people immediately want to just like graduate college and think that they're gonna get the 6-figure salary and change the world instantly.
Oh, that's gone. I mean, it's only very particular degrees where you could even like have a semblance of a guarantee that you'll work up to a 6-figure salary. That's, I mean,
but yeah,
the middle class is dying. Yeah, I think so, at least. But the unpaid internship, I mean, they suck, but I get it. If you're in a privileged position, if you're doing unpaid internship, I mean, someone who needs to like make their money to survive is not gonna, obviously. So that is a bummer.
Yeah. Well, that's the hard part too. Is radio's not really a job where you go, I really need to make money and get ends meet. Let me get this job in radio.
Yeah,
because they're gonna offer you. They're gonna offer you $18,000 a year salary, and you're gonna say thank you, and they're gonna be able to justify that because the only times you're really in the station is for 90 minutes or something on this show. Right. Where in reality, you're doing prep work at home, looking for news articles to talk about, coming up with jokes and funny things to say, getting Craigslist ads to read on air. So there's a lot of legwork behind it.
Yeah.
For like every hour, or as Woody Show was saying, like for every minute of show, it's about like 5 minutes of work behind it. So it's like, when you compress it down, the show's only 60 minutes, but everyone's doing a crazy amount of work behind.
No, that makes sense. And it kind of goes to follow then that among people who need to work full-time to support themselves, the people that have become successful artists are these crazy grinders that are willing to spend their 8 hours a day during the week or whatever when they're not at work and they're awake doing basically this other job, just because they love it. I mean, there was this article that was getting circulated in stand-up communities recently about burnout culture in comedy that was interesting. I encourage people to look up.
Yeah, link that to me after.
Yeah, for sure. That was an interesting one. Burnout. What do we do about it? It's a bummer. So I mean, I guess you're kind of saying that these people. I mean, it's a fair point that you don't go into the radio being like, oh yeah, it's not computer science. It's not like, oh boy, like. It's not like you're in Silicon Valley, doing computer science, fair enough. But damn, the radio is cool. You need to do, more people should do this shit, what I'm doing right now.
Podcasting?
Yeah, start your own podcast and then do something else to promote it. Like, because I also do stand-up, so in theory,
But that's the big one now is, I think, you gotta find that's where people become successful, is they find new alleys and avenues. But then you always hear the people, well, back in my day we were able to do this and now they changed the rules and it's unfair because people can't. It's like, people will always find a way. It's just, unfortunately, it's a lot of hard work and a little bit of luck. Because there's a lot of talented people out there. Of the music industry, I think, is the big one where Dave Grohl talked about that in an interview where he did say it's a little bit of luck, because he's like, he goes, I know people who work just as hard as me and play just as well, but he got the opportunity to go. Look at any classically trained musician.
Oh yeah, me. I'm a classically trained musician. It's not okay. Here, let me collect my thoughts. It's art, right? It's not math or science. So it's you can be this crazy virtuoso who can play any piece in the world, but music is about connecting with people, and that's why when people who are like hipsters, I guess, for lack of a better term, bitch and moan about like Justin Bieber selling records. It's like, listen, he's clearly connecting with people. Like, there's a critique to be made in the fact that a lot of these people are propped up by corporations that have malicious interests that want people to feel insecure and shitty. And are you a Bo Burnham fan at all?
Yeah.
That song,
Country?
Repeat Stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Repeat Stuff.
I believe it.
Yeah,
It's all...
No, yeah, so that's too bad. But, like, yeah, the art is personal. And the only people I really have known who have been making that wrong of, like, kind of assuming that, like, how complicated music is, like, how good it is or whatever, are like prog rock heads, like really, like people who are really into like progressive rock and metal, who are just will shit on anything that's like basically not complicated enough. And it's like, well, that's art. There's no there. You've got to find an audience So if you're making something really niche, that's great. You should, but only do it because you love it, not because you're expecting it falsely to blow you up or something.
And I think a lot of people are obsessed with, I could do this and then become a millionaire, and then when they're 30 and they're not millionaires, they get pissed off. And then they blame other people, where in reality it sucks for a lot of people. It's like, I agree, like do what you love, as long as you could, put food on the table. Because everyone has a right to pursue happiness, but they don't have the obligation to. They're not required to succeed, though.
Not everyone gets to win an NBA trophy.
Correct.
Everyone should have health care and enough to eat. And, basic. Very basic.
Basic functions. No, I understand. Yeah, I understand that. I don't know if it's even worth talking. We both kind of agree on that.
Oh, of course, yeah. If you're like not wanting there to be even basic protections, then that's that would be pretty wild.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, you have the minimum. Like, if you make the minimum, but it's like, hey, and it's not all people are created equally. I was talking to another micer about that, because like he was a pretty built guy, and we're talking about like muscle mass. I'm like, not everyone's created equally. It's like some people are able to like put on muscle crazy. It's like, if you tell your kid you could do if your kid is like 16 years old and her max height is 4'10", you tell them you could be a #1 strong man in the world, and he's like has Asian genetics which aren't known to put more muscle mass on. You're lying to that kid. It's like Iceland has more world strongmen than any other country. And you look at the people that come from that country, like, okay, yeah, there's freaking genetics at play here. So I hate the whole idea everyone's created equal. Everyone works hard, even in the one people don't like, but it's also mentally. There's some people that there's a friend in college, and like I always thought I was good at math and other things, and he just always beat everyone to the punch, and he was just, nothing challenged him in those categories. When it came to like more artistic sort of things, he had a harder time. But when it came to just mathematics, not everyone's created equal. And that's when I was like, you can't beat this person.
Was your friend Rain Man? Or
he almost was like, he said he got better socialized. He talked about it. He goes, I was almost like Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory in high school, where I was very unaware of other people's feelings, is how he said it. But he was just very good with numbers. And I hate that whole thing. Is like, we should all be equality.
Universalism. No, I hate that too. Don't get me wrong. There's a great.
Everyone should get stage time. Everyone should get the same stage time.
Well, for that, listen. If you're running a mic, you get to run it however you want. Obviously, if I were to run a mic, I would definitely run it very democratically, and I think that we should encourage open mic hosts to make the changes that we think should be made. This kind of goes into this idea.
So I'm talking open mic. I was just saying, overall, everyone should get to perform at whatever theater they want. And that was being sarcastic.
Oh, for sure. Like there is a universalism that there's sort of like a liberal sort of like love everyone, like be the change you want to see in the world. Universalism that I guess maybe looking at this tapestry, you might think I am one of them, you know.
Yeah.
But there's problems with that. Obviously, there's a lot about the world that is fucked, and you have to fight to change that. Not all the answers are just in like self-help and like looking at everyone like a special flower. You know, we have differences, and Frank, I tend to be pessimistic. I tend to say like we all suck. Most of us suck. Like in a lot of ways. I mean, the history of humanity is just so much suffering and chaos and us hurting each other and oppressing each other, and it's too bad. That's why I like. There's this. Probably the most famous communist intellectual, Slavoj Žižek, he talks about how much he hates that part of the left that's like, oh, we're all so special. He's like, no, we all suck. Which, you know, that's all totally just personal perspective. I just happen to be a pessimist a lot of the time, you know. Look at me, I'm wearing all black.
You need a drug rug.
Right, yeah. No, I do. There's drug rugs in my closet. Lots of my high school career was.
If I get you Hawaiian shirts, will you start wearing them to mics?
Yes, I would. There was.
Start getting you ones with the American Eagle on it. These colors don't run.
Yep. Have you seen the picture of me in the USA romper? It's on my Instagram. It's me in a USA romper. Yeah, it's pretty dope. I'm a patriot. I don't know if you knew that.
These colors don't run.
True patriot. Rock, flag, and eagle, baby. Freedom ain't not free.
No, that's a true statement too.
Freedom ain't not free.
Well, freedom isn't free, but I guess ain't not is a double, so freedom is free.
Right, yeah, that's an Eric Andre quote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm here to do is just rip off other people.
Okay.
On this podcast, yeah.
Pulling the Picasso.
Right, yeah.
Good artists create, great artists steal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Picasso. Yeah, not Picasso. Right.
Picasso. His name has like 11 or even more words. He has like a super crazy long name.
I wish I had a super crazy long name. Those are cool. It's like Latin and Hispanic people.
Yeah, even Filipino. I think it's because like my mom's full name, like Estela Marie Malan Pasamante Gasperi.
Oh.
Yeah. So, call her mom for short.
I mean, the flow to that almost sounds Scandinavian. Like when my grandma.
Oh, it's all Latin.
Like when I hear Finnish, my grandma says Finnish. It sounds like that. It bounces along. You know. But yeah, Latin. Dead language. Here's a hot take. People that learn Latin are losers. Can we agree on that? It's a dead language. Come on.
The only time I see that's worth it is if you're going into archaeology. Because there's a couple archaeologists who use it, but then if you're one of the many college majors who I'm studying Latin, it's like, why?
Yeah.
Unless you're going to be a linguist and you want to learn Portuguese, Spanish, and Italian, and there's probably other Latin-based ones I can't list because I'm terrible. I'm an American. I can only list like 3.
Yeah. We're isolationists, baby. We don't need that shit. We won. We're in the West.
Yeah.
We won. Yeah. Fuck yeah. No.
But that's the big one is I would see that if you're living over in Europe and like I want to learn these other languages. Oh, I guess Filipino, Tagalog is Latin based because the Spaniards just fucked it into their existence.
Yeah, the Spaniards have done a lot of fucking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's what's funny is my mom speaks Tagalog Filipino and then she learned Spanish in months and was able to speak it fluently. She's like, yeah, it's like almost all the same words.
Yeah, people that live in Europe and know a shit ton of different languages because it's just all those different countries around each other are so badass. I mean, that is really cool because like I'm studying English, right? And I just love English, and at some point I'm gonna need to expand. I should expand to other languages. It would probably be enriching to like my understanding of English, you know. But when I took Spanish in high school, I just hated it. I don't know. Something about. I think it comes in a way from my love of English and how you know crass English can be and how personal it is, how much I'm able to put my own flavor on my English. Like even when I write like academic papers, I write it in a very like when I'm writing a critique of this essay right now that basically says the whole essay it's by this lady from my hometown of Madison, Wisconsin, and she wrote an essay basically saying first-year college students nowadays are effete and unprepared for the real world and unprepared for even college and the work that will entail, and basically they need to pull themselves up from their bootstraps, and like teachers need to teach them ways of managing their time and stuff like that. And what was the broader point? Oh yeah, I'm writing a critique of it right now, and I'm just being a total dick in my critique. Like I'm just using very very like casual language, and I write a lot of commentary too in my act. So like in a way, my comedy, there's a connection between like my comedy stuff and my like the dry shit that I write, because I don't know, I try to make it like sassy, I write very mean essays, but in a fun way, because it's open exchange of ideas, and like I'm just out here like, that was a rant.
Okay.
Did that inspire anything?
Well, no, I was just still thinking about how you want to learn different languages, and the unfortunate part, because one of my classes I had to take was a psych class just to graduate, and luckily I got a teacher who understood that people just needed to graduate with this one, and he was more of a brain biologist than a psych teacher, so he explained more of the biology of the brain and how it worked, and I found out a lot more fascinating than other psych classes where it's just talking about like feelings and other things. And unfortunately he talked about learning languages, and there's a part in your brain when you're very young, if you're taught two separate languages, that part of your brain stays open. It actually, like, it's an actual change you could look at on a CAT scan.
Those first years are so crucial, man.
And so like my mom grew up speaking 3 languages in her house as a little kid: English, Tagalog, and Ilocano. And
I haven't even heard of those other two. What the fuck?
English, Tagalog's the main Filipino language.
Okay.
And then Ilocano is the province language.
Okay.
And so she grew up learning those, and then took French in high school and was able to pick up French like that. And the reason why is because at a young age, if you learn multiple languages, there's a part in your brain that physically stays open and allows you to learn new words. But as soon as, I think it's like 3 or 4, maybe even younger, that part seals off. And for now on, if you want to learn a language like me, like when I'm like, estoy means I am. And so when someone says that to me in Spanish, going, oh, estoy, I'm going, estoy equals I am. And then you there's like a translation, and the more you memorize, the quicker that translation gets written in your brain, and you could do it faster and faster till you almost seem fluent. But when I asked my mom, like, hey, when someone says that, like, how do you hear it? She goes, I hear it like this. There's no translation. It's an instant.
It just like hits the language center of her brain.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah, I find that sometimes, like when I'm reading, almost like I prefer to say the word out loud, or like to myself in my head. I prefer to like think it, but like I almost could not,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And so it's interesting when I ask my mom that, because hola equals hello, got it. Like, I don't know if that's how foreign language works with you. Yeah,
no, not at all. I suck at it. Like I said, Spanish class was not fun.
But,
I struggled.
Yeah, but to me, I have to translate and then store, translate, store, and then think of it in English, build it in Spanish, and you could get really fast at it, but it's never like how my mom is, where it's just, what language do you need from me?
Right, yeah. The older we get, the more it's like we're looking back on our lives, those years, it's like if you didn't, just sucks to suck if you didn't learn foreign language when you were when you were 5. But all the more reason to. I mean, there's apps and things where you can just learn stuff, learn a foreign language on the toilet, basically.
You sit in your cubicle. Hola, yo, estoy. Like, are you working? No. It's like terrible just sitting there.
That's you need ways to waste time at work.
We're busy.
Yeah,
we're always busy.
Okay, that's good. You're lucky. You're lucky to always be busy. Frankly, have you heard of the phenomenon of all these bullshit jobs? Where there's this book written called Bullshit Jobs about how a lot of just basically there's a whole type of office job where there's not enough work to fill the day, and people end up needing to just find ways to drag the day out, but the day needs to be that long because, or their bosses just make them, you know, be there that long. It's important for optics or whatever. So it's part of this case that like.
What job would that be?
It's a whole variety of like office jobs, basically, like white collar, just in general jobs. And the book makes this argument that the increase in automation has not resulted in this decrease in labor that we could have had, and it seems. I mean, certainly, the most simple thing that comes to my mind is just like these jobs where people are. There's not enough work to fill the day. I really wish that there wasn't this puritanical commitment to optics in our business world in the United States.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you have to be there all day. That's why, you know, hopefully this whole Corona thing might have some positive influence. Maybe we can get more of a culture of like, fucking work from home. If you only have like 4 hours of work to do today, just work from home. Just do only the work you need to do, you know?
Yeah, it's really... it depends on the business as well, because when I worked for my construction firm, they were private sector, and so they were about profits. And if there was work available, they were always crunching it on you, because like the most bullshit is like, hey, your salary, so we're gonna give you, you know, we're gonna give you work, but your salary, so we know you're professional. So when you need to work, burn the midnight oil, we understand. But then there's gonna be times where we're not so busy, so you don't have to. Mm-hmm. Never ever did I work less than 50 hours a week there. Mm-hmm. And the whole reason was just, and it wasn't like I was dicking around. I was in my 20s, bright-eyed, going, the harder I grind, the faster I move up. Because that's how you look after you go into the working world.
That's how you look at things for a while.
Yeah, you're just like because I think the hardest workers are probably college graduates in their 20s, and then when they hit their 30s, they realize, oh, I was just getting taken for a ride, and then they actually get a job they enjoy. Mm-hmm. But for those first like 8 years, whoever hires you is just super lucky to get like really cheap labor and a really high output. And I know that was part of that, is because you would work and you get your work done and be like, sweet, I'm gonna have to like, hey, and there's always work to do, to like, hey, so and so's falling a little behind, we need you to help out with them. It's like, and it's a very, you know, just me, I just like, fuck that guy. Like that person I saw them, they were just hanging out talking about sports for 3 hours with the other person. How come I have to take their work now? And I would say that to my boss and get furious. It's like, hey, so I can't say their names, but it's like they were dicking around. It's like the only way they're gonna learn is if you make them do. It's like, well, you can't make people work. It's like, well, you're making me work. It's like, well, that's because you care. It's like hard work always, you know, like the best rise to the top, and that's always what they would say. Eventually I was like,
it's a crock of shit.
I'm out.
Yeah, no,
took a pay cut.
People totally use emotional intelligence and like social credit to manipulate totally. There's a total bullshit aspect of society where people that are there's people that will just talk about sports. It's like those are probably the same people that didn't do their work in group projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the same. That person eventually did get fired, I heard, after I quit. It was great because like the owner of the company was talking to him about something with deadlines, and he blew up. The employee, he blew up in front of the owner, and then told to leave. So I'm like, I guess there is some karmic sense out there, or at least like to think. But
never again will I bitch about deadlines, dude. I had a great, because that's the thing about deadlines, is that you know, there's no like, if you know when they are, then either you have to be like, okay, it was too much work, or I fucked up, one or the other, right? It's very simple. You know when they're gonna be, and typically, like with school, it's you know, typically pretty reasonable deadlines, unless you're doing like med school or like, you know, going to Harvard or some shit, which I very much am not at community college. But like, I had a great conversation once with a great teacher of mine, a history teacher who taught a class also, where it was like, you have to pay money for the class, and you spend the semester learning about a trip that you're gonna take near the end of the semester abroad, and the whole class is just like, you learn about where you're gonna go, blah blah blah. And on the plane ride to our destination, the UK, I was talking with my teacher about, because I was a bad student, right? Like I was never a good student. I was a good student in freshman year actually, but then after that it was like, I was mediocre at best. And she was talking about a student of hers that was complaining about how she's a bad test taker and like the different bad test taker. Who has that bit about like
Daniel Tosh.
Yeah.
You're a bad test taker.
No, you
you
just don't know the material. Yeah.
You're a bad test taker. You mean the stuff that that we asked you to know? Like I don't know it word for word, but I was watching him last night. He has a whole bunch of in between takes on his show where he's just talking to the audience.
That's dope. But yeah, never again. It's like, and I even told her, I was like, yeah, I take my C's and D's like a man. You know, like you have to know. There is some degree of like knowing your place in the world. You know. Yeah.
I was .059 GPA points past the minimum graduation requirement. That's how close I freaking squeaked by. I actually got a phone call saying I didn't graduate. And what it was is one of my classes was an A-, which put me below the threshold instead of an A. And I called the professor up because I actually I figured out something for him. And he's like, there's a problem he needed solved that wasn't related to class. Like, it wasn't a homework assignment, but it helped him teach the class better, and I figured it out. And he goes, oh, remind me, I need to give you, like, extra credit for that. And so, as soon as that happened, I was like, hey, I can't graduate. I'm literally a minus to just an A away from literally making the minimum GPA. And he's like, hold on. And then, my grade all of a sudden in the program, in the portal that you have through the CSU system changed from an A- to an A, and .059 above the minimum threshold. And then I called the lady back. She's like, oh, okay, I see he fixed it. Yeah, we could print your degree. And I was like, oh my god, because I already had work lined up and stuff. And
what's that gif of someone omnisciently doing stuff with technology? That there's some gif that would be appropriate for what you're describing of you just see him entering. It's like when you submit, you send a document and it's a Google Doc and then you go in and edit it afterwards. You know, it's like you just feel But no, it's dope when professors do that. And that's interesting that your school was. I would have been way more comfortable if my school worked like yours, where it's just you have to be above a certain GPA, because I killed it in all my music classes, but it was just my. But in my school, it was you had to pass each class.
I still had to pass certain classes.
Okay.
I just did terrible in certain ones.
Gotcha. Yeah, no.
Most of the GEs, I didn't give two shits about the GEs.
Yeah, science classes for me were science is so fucking hard, dude. Oh my god, how do people do that stuff? It's so nerdy too. It's so boring and just technical, and for me at least, it's not what I enjoy.
Yeah, depending on what you're doing, there's certain I got a D in the electricity and magnetism physics class I had to take.
That sounds hard as fuck.
Yeah. The problem was our school had such a terrible physics department that when you're going to sign up for a class, they knew all the teachers were so garbage except for a couple that they wouldn't tell you who the teacher was on sign up. It would just say staff. Because if you knew who it was before you showed up that day, those teachers would get 0 students. And they had that problem. They actually had to change it because some teachers you would see Professor Saunders, and he would have his class full of 30 people and then 30 people waitlisted, and then you'd have another professor and they just have 0. And
people knew.
And that's one part of the system too, is there's professors that shouldn't be teaching anymore, and that clearly shows it. Hey, they're not doing their jobs. Well, they're having a hard time. No, their job's to teach students. The fact that no student is signing up for their class should show you you're failing.
That is a really difficult question to answer. It seems in every job, this is kind of a theme of what we're across our conversation today, in that every job there's some people that just don't give a fuck. There's some people that are just should not be there, and it's what do we do about that? There has to be some really, the pessimistic answer is that it's just human nature. The optimistic answer involves, I don't know, systemic change. There's only so much that you can in any crop of new teachers that you hire to replace shitty teachers, there's going to be new shitty teachers until something broad and systemic changes, right?
So working in private sector, we had some people that were lazy out the get-go, and they didn't last long. They were just, get out of here. And it wasn't even and granted, that company was very good at teaching people, where if you were willing to learn but you sucked, they would keep you for a very long time until they'd be like, hey, we're gonna keep you around, but like just to let you know, like your output's not gonna like give you raises and things like that, but we'll keep you around because you're producing at this level. But then there's just some people where they're working and then they'll just kind of dip out early because they want to do X, Y, or Z. Whereas working on the government side, there's certain people you're just like, you can't get rid of them. But it's not as much as they make in stereotypical TV show. Like most people are there to get work done, which is nice.
Yeah, right. Speaking of, I'll mention that history teacher of mine again. She worked in government for a while, and I hope this is all okay to mention. But she said that there is, of course, there's the aspect in politics of like there'll be the politicians that you agree with and disagree with, but she said there was another dimension of like some legislators, when she worked at the Capitol, I think it was a state capitol, would not be in their offices a lot of the time, and she could tell some were committed to like reading and writing legislation and like doing their job, and like some just in a bipartisan way, some didn't care about that. I tend to believe that if we that broader structural change, like if people are better taken care of, they'll start to care more. I wanna believe that. I need to believe that we can do better. Because a lot of people are products of their environment, right? So these people that are lazy or there's a reason for that, right? So yeah. I want to, I think it's also important to explore the why, like how did we get here in general?
A lot of it's raising, where you have the same parents going, why should I work? Because, and then the kids pick up on that, where it's like, hey, we're getting taken. It's hard because I think people should get taken care of, but I almost feel like there's the reason why they're not even working hard, because there's almost a sense of hopelessness. Or they're just happy the way they are, knowing, hey, the government takes care of me. I don't have aspirations to be this millionaire playboy. I just like watching my stories on TV, and then I get my check in the mail. And to them, that's the life.
But how many people are really, I feel like anyone really living that life is probably mentally ill. I mean, there's a certain natural human instinct to go out and persevere. I mean, I feel like anyone in that position is probably ill somehow. And I am of the position, this isn't math or science again, but like that, just those people should be taken care of. And I'm certain you'd agree, but.
I think there's going to always be a spectrum of people where you could give as much as you want, but there's always going to be someone that's going to take advantage of the system. And it's unfortunate. In any system you do, there's always going to be someone taking advantage. Mm-hmm. And all you can really do is hope the program helps most of the people in a positive way. And there's going to be people taking advantage, and that sucks. But you can't just say, hey, that guy's taking advantage, so nobody gets anything. And then it's like, well, that really sucks.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, it's good to, with anything, measure the net benefit versus the net positive negative. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Sweet. Well, where do you want to go from here? Can we do your life? Can we do your, we're about halfway through. You want to go into can we do childhood, early life? Tell me where you're coming from.
Grew up in Lancaster, California. Nice desert north of Los Angeles, the northernmost part of Los Angeles County.
Okay.
It was actually pretty nice. I liked it because it was a desert environment, but I was in I grew up a little different than most, because most schools are like, oh, I grew up in the inner city, or I grew up in the country, or I grew up in suburbia. But we were like in a weird area where you're near the city. I lived in the suburbs, but literally you walk outside and you just see desert. Mm-hmm. And then the school I went to had a combination of kids that lived in suburbia and then kids that lived in the country. Like we had horses coming by our school, sort of situation. Like we had that, as well as you had your typical kids that were just your suburbia kids. And it was one of the other weird ones too, is I know people talked about like, oh, this school's all white or all black. Mm-hmm. We grew up very mixed. Our school did too. especially high school, because I was on the track team, and we had a variety of a lot of people. We had a great track team. It's awesome.
Well, it was near LA, so that makes sense.
Yeah, but it was just interesting because I always just hear these like, oh, these schools are so divided, and I'm like, what are you like? Where I grew up, we had like a mixture of everyone, and we all. But I guess maybe times are different now. Maybe people are more sensitive. I don't know. We all bag on each other. Like, oh, there are some awful jokes in the locker room that I don't even like. You can't even say anymore. Like, you'll have. Oh yeah, you have the black kids bagging on the Asian kids, and then the white kids bagging on the like everyone's bagging on each other, but no one was fighting each other.
Right? Yeah, just like in comedy, it's a certain type of culture.
Yeah.
Gain acceptance by making fun of people.
Yeah, because like it through like we had a guy named Jordan. He's a black kid, and I was walking, he was walking, and he was with a group friend, but they didn't know that we were both on the track team together. So he just walks up to me and just freaking bows. And he's like, "Konnichiwa," and they're just like, they're all kind of like tensed up, and I'm just like, hey, I greet him and all that, but it just shows you like when you're friends first, it's like there's no real racial like he's just doing. He's like, hey, that's how they greet each other, and you're like, because the friend's like, oh my god, like you're saying that to this kid, and
it's funny to go over the top. It's funny to be crass. It's funny, all that stuff is good.
Yeah.
And funny, it's different cultures, you know, there's some sensitive cultures where people like to be sensitive and kumbaya and, you know, but there's always going to be people who are, like, especially on the East Coast, you know, there's a lot of, and like in big cities in general, you know, in LA, it's a lot rougher of a culture. People like to rag on each other. And, you know, we all just have to, there's a lot of, the part of tolerance is, everyone hears tolerance and they think of people who are policing people. They think of like the PC police or whatever, but half of tolerance is accepting where people are at and accepting just comedy, you know? And that's where I think Tim Dillon is valuable. I just want to encourage everyone to listen to Tim Dillon.
Oh, yeah, no, he's great.
Yeah.
I was secretly hoping to just see him when I was in Austin a couple of weeks ago. I was just like, come on. I was really hoping because we went to Mark Norman's first show. And I was really hoping that there would be other people there. Like, I swore I saw Andrew Schultz, and then it ended up not being him. I was like, Andrew. I was like, no, just keep walking. It's some random dude.
That happens to me all the time.
Yeah,
I have like face blindness.
It's Andrew. No, keep walking. Don't acknowledge. Just some random dude.
Right.
Yeah. No, but I think people in. Yeah, I don't know. I almost feel that teachers want to make problems so they could fix problems. Like, oh, look at all this inequality going on. And so what I did, I was trying to get some material. So I was YouTubing the other day, white chicks getting arrested by cops, just to change the whole story that the news is saying. I was like, well, let's see the other side.
Yeah.
And both the first two videos I hit was an undercover black guy as a security guard looking in just regular street clothes, takes down this white chick, and everyone's on the black guy's side. Even when the police guy came running in, he didn't even like look at the black guy, you know, pinning this white girl down. He immediately just ran up, grabbed the white girl and cuffed her. So I was like, okay.
Well, that makes sense because black guys are cool and charming, and white girls are shrill and annoying. So I mean, I would take the side of any black guy over.
Yeah, but that's the idea I had. I go, when it comes to profiling, there's one lower on the totem pole than an African American, and it's a methed out white girl. The other case was it was like in Arizona. Police get out of the car and there's like, you know, like it's in the hood area and like there's black guy there, and then they're like, hey, did you make the call? And he's like, no, I didn't make the call, but that girl has a gun over there and she was shooting it. And then they're like, oh, okay, just hold back, we're gonna check it out. And so they didn't even like frickin' grab him or anything. And this guy was just dressed like, you know, more disheveled than anything. Like if you everyone profiles based on how people are dressed. He was dressed disheveled. They walk over to this girl and she's like, he's lying, he had a gun, he's shooting at me, you need to stop him. And you're like, okay, let's question him. And so like, oh, excuse me, sir. It's like, we're going to question her. Can you just hold back over here? And so it's like, okay, they're being super nice to this guy. And then they question the girl, and next thing you know, they're like, can we look in your purse? And they're like, yeah, sure, look in my purse. They open the purse. Why are there bullets in your purse? She's like, I don't know how those got there. And then they pull out like some pills. And they're like, what type of pills are these? Are these pills? And she's like, I've never seen that before. And then the police, one of the officers is able to identify what the pills were. And so they grab, so it's like, okay, they grab her to cuff her. And then she pulls out a gun, and then they shoot her. And
wow, that's a very eventful video. This is the video you watched?
YouTube.
Oh, wow.
She didn't die, so she got shot, and she's all screaming and going, ah, God! And you're like, okay, we got her. But it's funny, it's like, these are the first two videos that came up, and I'm like, okay, both had black people in them, and both were not racially profiled or even questioned. They were actually treated very nicely.
I'm sure, but I mean, I'm sure I don't need to tell you that the numbers say that is not what usually happens.
Yeah, that's not usually happens.
Yeah. So it's, but I mean, it is fun to look for those exceptions, you know.
But it was the first two, which shocked me. But of course, my search was white girls getting arrested.
I want to see white men getting arrested. I want to see like white men, like Protestant white men, like European men, just getting like their necks stepped on by the police, you know.
Oh, you gotta watch Russian videos.
By like a trans police officer or something.
Oh, never mind. I was gonna say you could watch the Russian videos. They're pretty rough.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Russian dash cam footage is fucking crazy. I love that. It's a whole genre of YouTube.
My favorite is how they don't like littering, because there's like the Russian one where, I don't know if you've seen it, they were like, there's Uber, this is from the view of another car, but a guy passenger throws a beer bottle out the window. Uber driver gets out, grabs the beer bottle, throws it back in the car, opens the door, throws the guy out the car because traffic was stopped, and then traffic starts moving again. And this is like a 2-lane highway in fields. So crazy. I was just like, the dude's like trying to hit the door, and then eventually he just doesn't get a ride.
Dude, Russia's badass.
Yeah, it's just kind of cool. I wouldn't want to live there though.
Just wait, I'm gonna get a full Adidas tracksuit. I'm gonna start bringing vodka with me everywhere I go. Okay, you're not ready.
You get in sports car. It's very fast.
Oh man, I'm really wishing right now that this podcast was a video podcast and that we could play that video right now on there and have a way to like, you know, soon enough.
You'll build it up. You'll get a little camera. Get like 2 little GoPros that you can have running, and then Corral has a video editor. They're a Canadian software company. I use them for a lot of stuff because their licenses you could get for like $20 and it's yours for life. It's not like Adobe where it's a constant subscription. Not as powerful as Adobe products, but if you're not trying to make like super crazy like sci-fi effects, you're just trying to cut and sync up voices and sync up audio.
Yeah.
Like $20 to $50 depending when they're having sales.
That's exactly where I'm at. I am so untechnical. Like even just getting this set up today was a miracle. I'm just wanting to splice my stuff together, just tell my story. That's it.
Yeah, I would highly recommend that. I'll send you a link to that software, and then that's how I did a lot of my when I film myself on stage. Like that's how I'm able just to cut the ends, and it's very simple. They have like tons of tutorials on their website via YouTube of just like, this is the buttons you click. Super simple. You'll love it. It's
right on.
Yeah.
That's right up my alley. That I would recommend if you have with just, I guess what's cool about recording yourself so often is that you can comedy festivals, that usually you send in a clip, so you in theory have a recording of the hardest you ever killed, and you can always send that in. Are you gonna are you trying to get booked yet? Do you know? Are you starting?
The goal's just do open mics for a year. If someone says, "Hey, you want to go do a booking?" I'll be like, "You're lost, but okay." But the main one is I just need more of a stage presence. Right now, it's just doing mics, seeing if I even enjoy it. Right. That's the idea. It's like it's something. If you went to the writing session on Tuesday,
I should.
I learned that I got to work on dark humor. But it wasn't even supposed to be dark humor. Like it was a story of how. Obviously it was terrible because it's the first time I ever verbally said the joke because I just wrote it down that afternoon. But it was the first time I wrote or said an original joke, and
The first time you ever said an original joke?
yeah,
It was,
like
how long ago was this?
like as a little kid.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
like the first time I ever, like that was the story of me first time ever saying an original joke.
Okay, yeah.
And it ended up being very dark
Mm-hmm.
and messed up, and like Asia was there and she's like, holy shit, didn't see that turn. And but that's the one where Carlos said it looks like you were just reading a book report. But the idea was, and it's true, I was a little kid and my mom was a teacher and she had like this troubled student, but you know, as a teacher you still like your students.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember you're a little kid, you don't understand, so when your mom complains about a student, it doesn't mean that they hate them, they just have a headache that day.
Complain about them, yeah.
Well, can you to complain, but anyway, that day, I pared down the joke to make it more flowable, but the student ended up drowning in the neighbor's pool.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
So that's the dark part.
Well, your mom got her way. Or
yeah, and
you
she
saw her
was in tears crying. Like she was
Oh.
crying for a couple days because I was her student. And she was just heartbroken. And then I was cleaning the pool and we found a rat in it. And then I'm like, how can I compare these two things to make it funny? Because I'm a little, like, I was not even in junior high yet. Like, I was an elementary school kid, but this is because I was trying to think back and go,
Oh,
when
boy.
did I want to say jokes? I'm like, Mom, what does our swimming pool and the neighbor's pool have in common? And then she's like, through her tears, she's like, huh, what? And I'm like, both had something die in them. And, like, obviously, Laughs Unlimited hated the joke.
Well, yeah.
Rightfully so. It was terribly executed, and it was not a fun joke. And so I completely agree. But that was a true story. My dad was like, Gary! And just like, you know, I was in so much trouble for even talking like that. But that was my first ever attempt of going, there's two things. My mom's obviously sad.
Mm-hmm.
How can I make this into funny?
Mm-hmm.
And there was more I did. I can't remember the exact. That one stuck with me because I got in so much trouble. But there's other times where like relatives died or funerals happened or
All the most fun times.
yeah, and I made jokes while at those places,
Nice.
and I would get in trouble because I was always trying to like whenever people are sad, immediately sad at something. I never understood what grieving time was. I just never really affected me.
You're a psychopath. You're a serial killer.
I guess so.
You have
Yeah.
bodies buried in your backyard.
Yeah. Our oak tree has more protein than any other oak tree.
You weren't hacking wood this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Hacking up victims.
Yeah. No, but yeah, it was always something where like as soon as like a sad event happens, I guess that's a sick way. I'm like, but to me, I'm like, how can I make this enjoyable so people forget about the sadness? But at the same time, I guess it's people need grieving time.
Yeah, well, yeah. Exactly.
And-
People are humans. You
Yeah.
gotta, you know, I've been as much of an ardent defender of free speech as anyone, you know, defending comics' right to just say a bunch of horrible shit, but also at the end of the day, I mean, if you say something and someone is clearly hurt and you don't feel bad about that, then you're a sociopath. Like that's you know,
Yeah.
that's not good. But also people need to toughen up. It's both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I obviously I grew as a person that day. You're just like, oh, people don't like this.
Yeah.
So when her student died, she's been crying for 2 days.
Yeah.
She needs a joke about that. No,
Right.
see, as adult Gary would look back and go, oh,
Yeah. Right.
that's a terrible idea and a poor. But obviously the story,
It's great though. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
I still want to work on that bit because the joke wasn't to be dark.
Mm-hmm.
The joke was to talk about how naive I was and that's kind of the joke is like, look how terrible I was as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
No, I gotta work on it and figure out a way of presenting that because the joke's not to be me laughing about a dead kid.
You could use it to make
But that's
fun
what
of,
everyone thought.
You could make fun of all comedians with it. Be like, yeah, it really set the course for me being another like narcissistic, you know, sociopath comedian who just wants to laugh at all the ills of the world. They like that. I'll go back to recommending Bo Burnham again. His song's "Sad."
Yeah.
Yeah, or he's like, I get it now. The world's not sad. The world is funny. I'm a sociopath.
Yeah.
But no, sincerely though, humor is like tragedy and comedy is like a cycle.
Tragedy
You know?
plus time equals comedy.
Exactly. Yes.
9 years is the rule South Park had.
9 years.
That was their rule because they did 9/11 jokes, and
I
then they
figured-
go, "It's been 9 years, guys. It's been 9. We can laugh now," and they actually like ended the episode.
We actually should have been making fun of 9/11 right away, and I'm sure people were just like on the ground level, but I mean, the terrorists win if we don't make fun of 9/11.
So Ron White had an opener who was going to do that a week after 9/11 in New York, and he goes, "I've never told someone not to do a set before or a joke," but he goes, "But it was my show. We were in New York, and my opener was going to do a bit on the towers, and I grabbed him and said, if you say that bit, I'm going to like end your career." And he said something along those lines. Don't quote me. Go look at Joe Rogan for that one. But he goes, "I've never done that." He goes, "But that would have killed." He goes, "We were in New York." He goes, "You know how close we were to the Twin Towers?" I forgot where they performed, but they were very close to the ground zero.
Mhm.
And he's like, it would have killed the whole show. He would have been headlining, and no one would have been laughing because they've been so freaking a week after. Like, you can't do that. So
a week after, that's
they're literally still looking for bodies.
Yeah. There are some boundaries.
There's someone. So he needed. That's probably he still had. He didn't have a dad to set him straight. I guess. Not like my dad. Gary, I'm in trouble.
Right. I had plenty of people getting mad at me for making annoying jokes, and it just took me eventually on my own deciding, I guess, that I wanted to. Just really very recently, I had a transformative conversation with someone who's now my close friend, who started off like being pissed at me for just saying a joke really poorly and wording it stupidly, and she gave me a pretty valid piece of criticism, and I responded to it poorly at first, but then we ended up having a better conversation about it later on, and it was valuable. It's always, we're always trying to find that line. I think that's an attitude that Dave Chappelle embodies well in his work. I think he's always like trying to like act in good faith and really like make jokes in a way that's not make dark and offensive jokes in a way that's not harmful. And I do think Tim Dillon sometimes some of the people he platforms, and like I don't know, sometimes he does cross the line a little bit more for me than I think Dave Chappelle is more like, I guess, where I'm at in terms of like how much I want lines to be crossed, I guess, and like what attitude or like motive seems to be there for crossing those lines. I feel like there's always a divide between people that look at edgy comedians as like, oh, they're great because they're saying the truth that no one else will say, versus people that just like that because
they just want to be mean.
That's me, and that's me. That's I like just silliness and meanness sometimes, and just like, well, whatever. But then there's like, I had a group of like skinheads, frankly, come up to me after a set I did once in Madison, and they were like, "Man, you were the only one that went up that wasn't a fucking pussy," and I was like, "Yeesh!" Like, I don't know, what did I say? Like, I didn't think I did anything like racist, but I don't know. It's weird the way that like, it's almost like comedy sort of rings as culturally sort of conservative or right wing in a way, culturally, and like that sort of attracts, but like, I've always like came from like a Colbert Report tradition, like that was my show as a kid. Like I'm very into satire, so for me it's always like I'm saying the opposite of the truth for that like comedic relief. But there is like, I feel like a whole category of people who are like, oh yeah, these comedians need to like I don't know, like Nick DiPaolo would be a good example of like someone who's like, saying offensive shit and like, he believes it's like for sure. Tim Dillon sometimes I'm not sure, but like Nick DiPaolo definitely believes like, the kind of I don't know, the more offensive shit that he says, I guess. I think. Yeah.
No, I think that's where you get. I think when you're starting out as a comedian, the goal is just to make people laugh, and then eventually grow and express your own understanding, like Dave Chappelle does now. Because remember, some of his jokes too. Like, think of his show, like the chick's dancing in the car and her tits falling out and all that, and it's like, you got to have that sort of humor as well. I think it's always good to understand your philosophy, but at the end of the day, you're hired to make people laugh, and that's your job. People don't like to hear it, but it's a job. You have a job.
Yeah.
And sometimes your job is doing something you don't want to do until you get to the level of fuck you money.
Yes.
or whatever, then you could just say, I'm gonna go on stage and because like some of the George Carlin's later stuff, I didn't laugh a single time.
Yeah, he bombed a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is like I listen and go, that was very interesting. Everything he said was very interesting, but I did not find it funny. But it was interesting to keep my attention, but it was not funny.
Yeah. There's a whole type of comedy like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Portlandia, I find myself feeling that way a lot about. Like I watch it and I like admire it as what it is, but I mean it's not like funny, you know. It's not like laugh out loud funny. Sometimes it is, but who else is like that? That Bill Hicks. He always struck me like that. Some people push back against that when I say that and say that they did find Bill Hicks super funny, but like he seems to fall into that category of like philosophy comedy too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like a whole genre, but yeah, George Carlin, he would like talk about reading off notes, talk about reading a book. George Carlin would have like, you know, legal paper filled with just like pages and pages of notes that he'd be reading off of. I mean, that's you have to earn your way to a certain place by being funny, and then you can just bullshit. And I don't think it's even super fuck you money. I think like once you're even like a paid regular at like the Comedy Store or something, you can. I saw who was it? Some comedian go up at the Laugh Factory in LA, and he was just doing new stuff, and he was like a pretty well-known comedian. I can't remember who he was, but he was just reading off his notes and then just trying new stuff. And it was like pretty mediocre, a lot of it, frankly. And that's I look forward to getting that to that. Well, I don't know. I used to watch Louis' show all the time, and like there would be times in his show where he would like walk past a club and just be like, "Hey, can I just pop in and do 10 minutes?" The idea of having that like credit in any stand-up community where I could just like go hop on and just casually do stage time. I mean, it's just like. I think Seinfeld is honestly living like such a dream life right now, probably.
Oh yeah.
I envy him, man, and he's just meditating all the time too. He's a big meditator. He's a cool guy. Seems cool.
Yeah.
Do you like Seinfeld?
Yeah. No, I've watched them all.
Yeah, you seen Jerry Seinfeld Comedian, the documentary about stand-up that he made?
No, but I watched one of his 5-minute sets yesterday from 1990.
Oh, okay.
I got like the best comics at it's one of the clubs down in LA, and it was like a hour 54-minute DVD. So I had Kelsey Grammer, Norm Macdonald. It's crazy looking at him. Adam Sandler when he was poor.
Yeah, best Adam Sandler.
Yeah. He's like, I'm not doing too. He's like, I'm getting there. He's like, one day I'll have enough money to do some stuff I like. And I was just like, oh my god, it's so weird watching him say that.
Yes, you will.
Yes, you will.
You'll have enough money to.
But it's just weird. Like he's very truthful. Yeah, one day I hope to have enough money to do stuff I like. Just so innocent and nice about it. And you're like, oh, you don't realize.
Dude, the 90s were like peak humanity, honestly.
Yeah.
It just did fucking Chris Farley and Adam Sandler and Chris Rock were doing their thing. SNL was funny, you know.
Oh, your favorite guy's gonna host the next SNL.
Elon Musk. Okay, yeah. Let's end this with a little bit of well, I mean, I guess we're not.
No, we're not.
We can do 20 minutes of Elon Musk talk. Elon Musk.
I don't really have much to say though.
Fair enough.
I just follow his. I just hear stuff. But
no, I used to. I still like him to some degree because I grew up like I was a big space kid. Like that was what I was obsessed with when I was like 5-ish, and so I love space. I love space exploration. All of my initial understanding of Elon Musk was that of just being a total fanboy. I mean, Teslas are dope. I'm an environmentalist. I want us to have zero, or I want us to have like clean, no emissions, whatever. All that stuff's great. But then I learned something just today about how he made his initial money, or like how his origins are like having to do with sort of he built some of his initial wealth or power or whatever off of like apartheid South Africa. You know, the whole like socioeconomic system there, and that was kind of sus. But it's irresponsible of me to even be bringing that up since I just learned. I saw that like in a tweet today. I need to verify that. But
On Apple campus, you get all your phones based on practically slave labor.
yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of hard to blame. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Herein lies my problems with these people, and it's just a matter of what your priorities are. I've started to like look at the least among us on earth as like, you know, I've just started to be, you know, classic college shit, you know, just like be, you know, pacifist, like wanting to just affect, you know, positive change for like the most, you know, I'm gonna go out there and change the world, right? You know, yeah, it's just this like exploitation by all. I mean, it's all of the big capitalists, right? And there's no way to not feed into it because they make all this stuff that we need, you know. So it's the problems are deep and fucked. And Elon Musk is just one dude. I'm not into demonizing people, you know. So, but it's just like, I don't know. I want to be cautious about like glorifying the genius entrepreneur too, because a lot of it was teams of people too, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Elon Musk.
No, it's hard to, because I was talking. My cousin brought it up. Like, he's like, the reason why we're able to live so well is because of how poor other people are living. Because you always go like, oh, there's a lot of suffering here in the U.S., and then you compare it to the rest of the world, and you're like, oh, we're the upper ring.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to society, like here, like, you know, it's like, oh, I live in my apartment. It's like, no, you're in the upper ring and you don't even realize it until you go to other countries. And it's like, China has the death camps right now where they're, you know, sterilizing and killing people. You have all the freaking war zone in other parts of the world. Don't mention what's all the warlords in Africa, like things going on. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And I think we take advantage, but prices are so low because we, like, when you want stuff for cheap, people don't ask questions. I think one of the big ones was when you had slavery in the U.S., people actually saw slavery and like, this is terrible. We need to do something about it. And so it happened. But then you just move slavery overseas and everyone's like, look at my new iPhone.
And there's still hella slavery in the United States. It's human trafficking.
Yes.
Yeah.
What, more slaves today than there was in the 1860s?
Yeah, dude. Oh my god.
Yeah.
The world is so fucked.
Yeah, but you don't realize it.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of those issues where it's really just like we need to like come up with solutions. It's like there's no like easy answer.
There never is, and the problem is every time you think of a policy, you have to realize there's always two sides of the coin: freedom and equality. You could never have both.
Those are the two paths, indeed.
Yeah. So if it's like, oh, if we increase the freedoms, you lower the equality. If you increase the equality, example, like everyone should have a house. Well, then you reduce freedoms of other people because you're taking their money, their freedom to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so there's always, you always have to look at that balance of, does it help the greater good? Does that person, or is there someone who just, why does this person have all that stuff? Is it because they're some crazy evil capitalist? Could be. Or maybe they just grinded harder, because that's the shitty part too.
You can acknowledge both. Yeah, I think it's crucial that we do acknowledge both their innovation, their innovation, their contributions to society have been great in some ways, and then also call out the exploitation that needs to be called out. But yeah, that is the basic divide in American in politics and really in like thinking. I mean, it basically goes back to like, I mean, these traditions of like individualism basically versus collectivism go back, go back to the beginning of human thought basically. It's these things. That's what's so interesting that I've kind of learned recently, or started to think about recently, that this was brought on by a book I read called "Give Them an Argument: Logic for the Left" by Ben Burgess, and he's a philosophy professor, and he talks about how, and this has also been talked about by Michael Brooks, a political commentator I follow, but it's not math or science, it's values. It's these different values and priorities that people have. There's basically a left-hand path and a right-hand path, collectivism or individualism, and you have to, there's evidence that you can point to support your case, but then everyone has some evidence to support their case, and that's where open exchange of ideas comes into play, and that's where, like, recently I've just been thinking about, and this came from that book also, but like democracy in everything. I think humanity is better when we have open exchange of ideas as much as possible, understand where each other are coming from, classic college freshman shit, really. Honestly. I guess this is like maybe not all that interesting, just like dorm room shit, but like it is just about values, and but also, I mean, I will say, I think it's pretty clear in the United States that we're at a level of radical inequality, like just tens of millions of people in poverty, tens of millions without health care. Well, I assume
as bad as 1864.
Worse. The top 3 families in the country own as much wealth as the bottom half, I think, was
Unfortunately, I think it's always been that way.
You can measure wealth inequality over time. There's obvious. This is like what historians and archaeologists do. And I believe don't quote me on this, but I believe the United States is the most unequal empire ever. Basically, I had a history teacher one time show us.
Roman Empire was.
No. I had a history teacher
under Augustus.
That was just about what I was just about to mention. I had a history teacher show us the radical inequality in the Roman Empire, and then he was like, "So do you think the inequality is worse or better now?" And there was mixed answers in the class, and he said that it was much worse. I don't know. I would encourage people to look up inequality in various societies over time. But just when I see the people in this country starving and without health care, and when I see the wealth that is at the top, I just think that we can do better. Not any sort of like, we need to seize X amount of money from X people and hand it over. And just I think we can be doing better in some capacity. Just generally, I want to move left and kind of tax those people more. And I think that there's examples globally of it working well. Lula da Silva in Brazil lifted 20 million people out of poverty, for instance. And I just think it can be done. So food and healthcare for people in general is what I care most about. So that's where my motive is coming from, I guess.
But does inequality, does that mean worse, like, standard of living? Because in the Rome, like, let's take 1864. If you're saying that there's more inequality now than in 1864, the standard of living was terrible. Mm-hmm. And so let's say I'm billionaire, I'm Uncle Pennybags. And
Scrooge McDuck.
Monopoly.
Elon Musk.
Yeah,
Jeff
but anyway,
Bezos.
So it's like, let's just say you're kicking ass at life. And then it's like, hey, you have all this stuff, we don't have much stuff. It's like, but you have a house, you have all this. Well, okay, I'll give you healthcare, I'll give you houses. Cool. And now I still keep kicking ass. I'm going further down the line. I'm collecting mansions and yachts. You're even further ahead now than we were a decade ago. Do I have to give them more stuff? Or now there's just people...
Wait, but you're more ahead, but the average citizen is not necessarily.
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm saying that, here's where Marxism enters, is that Marxism is a framework for looking at the economy where it's a class struggle between the workers and the capitalists, and the workers need to take back you need to take it back from the capitalists, and it's a gradual process that happens over time. So we start with Bernie Sanders and end with the USSR. It's my communist utopia. No, not communism, but and that's basically as a general framework. But then the opposing framework, correct me if I'm wrong, is that would stifle innovation, and that there's these unique innovators that need the freedom to do what they're going to do because that's going to create benefits for society. And I assume you would also point to the fact that even people who are without health care, can go to the ER. You're talking about the infrastructure that we have. People can go to the ER.
Oh no, I agree.
And there's
healthcare sucks.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's and how anyone could not agree.
But I think Canadian healthcare sucks too.
Yeah, there's a critique. Right, there's a critique to be made.
That's why there's no answer when people are like, "Oh, we should do Canada." It's like, no, Canada sucks too. We need something better.
I would say that I do like Canada's system more, and the UK has a weird system where it's like
but the wait times.
I don't know.
Like nothing's perfect.
It's very it's indeed. It's very country by country. From what I understand, the Scandinavian countries do it well,
But they're also a country of high producers. Imagine if you had a country where a lot of your laborers outsourced over to China, and then you just have a country mostly of white collar workers.
Right, and that's where populism comes in. That it's
Moore's Utopia.
Mars Utopia, right?
Moore, if you read that one.
Oh no, I don't think I have.
Oh, his whole idea of a perfect society, and it's pretty fucked because you read more and more. It's like, and there'll be a country that will have brutes and savages that we could hire to fight our wars for us, and then there'll be another area that we're not part of our utopia, but they will manufacture goods. It's like, so wait a minute, you're describing imperialism before, and then you have this one country of just all the intellectuals who are so smart and share their knowledge.
Is that a sci-fi book?
No, it's a philosophy book.
Is that philosophy? Oh, is that?
I have a copy.
Is that one where the society splits apart and it's the socialists and the capitalists, and they go their separate ways?
I don't remember too much. I just remember telling my teacher that the guy's an asshole.
Fair enough. That's a good thing to do.
I was like, this guy's just an asshole. He's not smart.
We can find a point of unity in that the thing about you mentioned jobs going overseas to China, trade, populism, isolationism. That's something we can all agree on. I mean, that's what Trump kind of ran on. That's kind of what he went on, was trade populism, because he was kind of left of the I mean, that's where these semantics kind of fall apart too, is it's what even is with trade. It's what even is left or right. Just isolationism just is correct because foreign countries have bad labor practices. So if you're on the left, then you care about that, and then also if you're on the right, you want the country to do well. You want your country's economy to do well. So you also want jobs to stay in domestically, and it's really only the elites that are making these NAFTA, these deals, right? These
North American Free Trade Agreement.
Yeah. And there's one that's Trump signed too, right? So and you bought me the people's wine, and it gets us to an important point that ultimately everyone of different viewpoints has more in common than the people holding power, and we need to remember that.
Yeah, no, a lot of people aren't so different.
Mm-hmm.
I think, unfortunately, we live in a very politically charged state. I didn't realize how charged it was until I went to Texas, because they made it seem so we were there, so we were not in Austin at the time, and they talked about they took the mask policy down, and Texas is horrible because that's what we were hearing here.
Mm-hmm.
I went into the world's largest gas station called Buc-ee's, 120 pumps. It's like a Walmart inside. Everyone had a mask on. The bathrooms were impeccably clean. They boasted having the world's cleanest bathrooms. The coffee place where you make your own coffee and people were doing that, clean.
Mm-hmm.
And no one was being a jerk. Only one car was weaving in and out of traffic there, and it had California plates. That was that's absolutely true, but it's just kind of weird, just perspective. I don't know, it's kind of off topic. I just I just wanted to bring up we hear a lot of things of look at what they're doing versus how good we are,
right.
And then I think sometimes we're the shitbags over here, and you go elsewhere and it's dude, everyone's just minding their own and being really cool about things, and here we are just saying we're the best, everyone else is terrible, and you should do more like us, and it's you guys should take a trip or across the country and realize not everything has to be done one way. I don't know. It's just always...
That's you're exactly right. That is a huge solution to a lot of the world's problems, is just meeting people, meeting other people, meeting different walks of life and interacting with them. Yeah. That's why podcasts are so important.
Yeah. I don't know. I've had the fortune of being able to travel abroad a few. I know not
That's awesome.
everyone could have it, but it's just interesting meeting different people. Like,
Yeah.
me and my girlfriend were in Vietnam for like 2 weeks.
I want to go there so bad.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. That's awesome.
Yeah.
The pictures I've seen of the mountains there, gorgeous.
Yeah, but it's the people were very interesting because they hold no grudges, and they talk about, well, it's hard to hold a grudge when you win the war. You're just like, yeah, we won, so no hard feelings, right?
Hey, come on, it was a tie.
Yeah.
Defend these colors don't run, right?
No.
It was a tie.
Saigon is called Ho Chi Minh City. I think they won.
That's a conversation for a different day.
Yeah. Oh, you want to wrap up? Or?
I didn't know. We got. Let's do a little bit more. We got 5 more minutes.
It was just interesting traveling and seeing just different people and how they work. Now, mind you brought up labor practices. Some of the construction, because I work construction, so I actually took pictures because we have something called safety moment meetings where you have to like do something that pertains to safety. So I'd go list how many OSHA regulations you could find broken.
Yeah.
But the people are very friendly. Yeah, labor practices just change in time. No other country could force that on another. Like the people themselves will have to want change. But yeah, Vietnam was a beautiful country. The people are really nice. You do have to still understand, like, I know there's some people who travel and they think I could do whatever I want, but it's still a communist regime, so there are some.
In Vietnam?
They are a communist country.
Wow. I've not read a single thing about the government of Vietnam. I'm going to do that.
Yeah. That same summer, my friend's wife was over there. She's a lawyer and she was studying international law. She was for Vietnamese trade, and it's still you got to be a member of the party to get stuff done. It's very interesting over there, but that's just like over here. You could say all our politicians are scum. Just like over there, you could criticize the politicians, but then you have just regular people just trying like, hey, I just want to make food and feed my family, and most people, like most of the world is that way. You just have a few people who just like to. It's some weird game, I guess, that they want to play.
Of getting ahead.
But a lot of people just want to live. And I noticed that with Vietnam, and then saying we went from Vietnam to Cambodia to Thailand.
That's a dope trip.
Yeah. And same thing. We went to Peru. Same people. Like everyone's very friendly. Like obviously there's differences in culture and education and labor practices once again, but I don't know, from everywhere I've traveled, most people are just people.
It also, I'm sure it helps that you generally are not, there's different groups of people that would probably be more persecuted than you know. But yeah, people are generally friendly, and you've just got to meet the groups of people that you're talking about, and not generalize. And once you meet them, you understand where they're coming from, and yeah, exactly. That's all good stuff.
Now, one of my favorite things I found out, and I got to turn it into a bit, is Asians can't tell each other apart because every Asian thought I was their type of Asian when I went into their country. When I was in Vietnam, the tour guide tried to speak Vietnamese to me, and I was like, I don't know that. She's like, your mother didn't teach you Vietnamese? And I'm like, my mom's from the Philippines. And then same thing in Cambodia. They tried to speak to me, and I was same thing. Then in Thailand, we went to Thailand, and they tried it again. I was like, I'm Filipino. And they did, how did you not learn your home language? And I'm like, my mom's language is Tagalog. And I don't know. And I realized, Kat, Asians can't tell each other apart.
Even Asians can't tell each other apart.
Yeah. They just assume I'm part of them because I'm visiting their country.
And it's just it's kind of hard to tell differences between different flavors of a race, right? Almost. Yeah.
But it made me laugh so hard. I was like, 3 for 3.
Everyone wants you to be one of them. Yeah. It's like Kendrick Lamar said, Dominicans wish I was born there.
Yeah.
I
laugh at that.
Well, okay. This is an hour and a half, and it's been super fun. It's been both fun and a labor for me to figure out how to do the podcast thing and keep it going. And thanks for popping my cherry and being the first guest.
So special.
Right.
I thought you wanted to ease the pain.
Right. Yeah. No. Indeed, I'll be drinking that tonight. Hopefully after my school's done and.
You have class?
I'm writing today.
Oh.
I got like
Never
1,000
mind.
pages to write. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. So much fun. Okay.
So
That's
you don't want to go to the mic.
Actually, is it right now?
Sign-ups are at 6:30. Starts at 7:30.
Yeah. No, I'll go. This is what a great ending to the podcast. I'm going to a mic. Peace out.